Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt and welcome back to another short war summary, and today we're receiving breaking news coming out of both Ukraine and also Russia. We're learning of the biggest story of the day, which is apparently a rather bold and extensive drone attack on Moscow carried out by Ukraine. We have some more breaking news about that and more details about it, and we're also learning that apparently the Chinese are sending more weapons than we previously thought to Russia to use in their war against Ukraine. So we have a lot of breaking stories today, and let's go ahead and jump right into the first piece of news. And this is from BNO. It says, drones hit multiple buildings in Moscow, causing damage. And we do have a video of that here that I can show you to see what the extent of the damage was. And as I zoom in here in the video, you can see that multiple floors of this building, while pieces fall right off of it, have been extensively damaged and if not completely destroyed. The windows have been shattered and busted out, and there was smoke pouring out of the building. Very extensive, and a rather large explosive must have been used to carry this out, and also a rather large drone must have flown right into the side of the building. So a very big attack there on that building, and you might be wondering what building that actually is. It looks rather upscale to me. And in our next post here from OSINT Defender, we learned which building that was. Apparently, it was the headquarters for the Russian branch of Leroy Merlin, a French home improvement company, and it was struck tonight with Ukrainian kamikaze drones. It hit the top floors of the building, as we saw in the video, and it's caused a fire. Right now, there are still emergency crews on scene, but the Russians are reporting no casualties out of this attack, which I find kind of hard to believe, because with this type of damage, this extensive and this major, it seems like there might be at least a few injuries from it, but right now the Russians are trying to claim there are none. So we'll have to wait and see if that actually is the case after more hours pass by and they're able to assess the damage. Of course, the Russians might lie and claim there are no casualties anyway, but we'll have to wait and see what they say. Moving on to our next piece of news here, we have a piece from Clash Report. It says Ukrainian kamikaze UAV strikes on Moscow at night, and one of the UAVs fell 500 meters from the Russian MOD building. And this is a very large piece of news. We see here the Russian MOD building and smoke billowing up from the back of it. Apparently, according to Clash Report, the UAV fell 500 meters from the building. We're not sure if it actually damaged or hit it or destroyed any part of it, but it did fall right next to the building, and I would assume the MOD was the target, and apparently something happened where it wasn't able to reach it. Not sure what, but that was very close to that building where the Russians planned their defensive operations. Also, we see here it says the second UAV hit the business center on this street in Moscow, and windows were shattered in some of the buildings. So very interesting, and another piece of the puzzle to give us a full picture of what was happening. Also, we have a video here of the drone loitering around inside of Moscow, undisturbed by air defenses. And we see here, we can hear it in the background. And it'll come into frame here in just a moment. We can see the drone. There it is. It's flying around Moscow looking for its target. And obviously it ended up finding its target because it did hit two different buildings in two different places. And apparently the Russian air defenses aren't that good, or otherwise they'd have shot this drone down and it wouldn't have hit its targets. So, of course, the Russians love to brag about how good their defenses are inside of their capital city of Moscow, but apparently they're lying like usual. So, moving on to our next piece of news here, we have a post from the Kyiv Independent, and it says, a Ukrainian defense intelligence official says Kyiv is behind the Moscow drone attack, and a Ukrainian defense intelligence official, speaking anonymously, told CNN that Kyiv is responsible for the attack in the early morning of July 24th. And of course, since this person is speaking anonymously, you have to take that for what it is. I would personally like to wait until someone officially comes out and takes responsibility for it, but it does make logical sense that Ukraine would have carried this out because a rather large drone was used, and Ukraine is probably the only person that is going to have access to drones that large to use in an attack like this on the Russians. So it makes sense, but I would like to see someone take responsibility and take, basically stand behind their statements. So with that being said, we do have another piece of news here. And this one is right here, which the headline says, Zelensky vows retaliation against Russia after the Odessa attack. And this would make a lot of sense why they attacked Moscow with drones today, because Zelensky did vow retaliation for that very gruesome attack on Odessa that the Russians pulled off about a day ago. And speaking of which, while I'm at it, I want to show you this new tool that I've begun using to source the news to present in our daily war summary videos. And you might see up here, it's called Ground News, and that they combine stories and articles from thousands of outlets, local and national, in one place, so readers can see the full picture of what's being reported around the world. Ground News has a ton of great features on it that I found extremely useful. For example, over here on the right, you can see that they provide a visual breakdown for each source. They give you information about the source, including their political bias right here, which they put in this nice little clean chart. They also give you a rating of the source's factuality down here, as well as the ownership information, so you can know exactly who is putting out this news and when they're putting it out, and also the quality of the reporting as well. They also give you the ability to organize news by category. For example, if I go up here and type in Russia into the search bar, you'll see all these subcategories pop up. I'm going to click on the Russia category, and it'll bring you to this piece here, which curates news just about Russia and presents it to you in a nice, clean fashion. For example, they have the top Russian news up here at this spot. They also have another really great feature here called the blind spot feed, which basically presents articles that might have been over or underreported, which can create information bias due to the nature of the source's political leaning. And this feature ensures you will get a balanced view of the news. I found this part extremely helpful right here. And I believe that Ground News allows you to become a smarter news consumer by being able to see through the bias, and it'll allow you to make informed decisions about the world around you. And if you want, you can subscribe through my link at ground.news/enforcer, also in the description below, before August 15th for 30% off unlimited access. And I want to thank Ground News personally for sponsoring this video and becoming a partner of the Enforcer channel. And with that, we are moving on to our next big news article of the day, which is from Unusual Whales. It says China is secretly sending enough gear to Russia to equip an army, says Politico. And we have heard in the past that China has been sending stuff to Russia, but we really weren't sure exactly how much was being sent. But it looks now like we're being told by this investigative report from Politico that they are sending a ton of equipment to Russia, which is very concerning because apparently it might be outnumbering the West equipment that we're sending to Ukraine. So let's go ahead and jump into our next news article to examine the details of that claim. And this one is from Kyiv Post. It says Russia imported more than 100 million worth of drones from China in 2023, which is 30 times more than Ukraine, according to the Politico investigation. And in addition, Russian imports of Chinese ceramics, a component used in body armor, increased by 69%, more than 225 million. So obviously, not a small amount of equipment being sent, a rather large amount of equipment, and Russia importing more than 100 million worth of drones from China, that is no small feat. And that is apparently how Russia is basically getting their whole operation off the ground, is through China in a large part. So not a good sign here, and I hate to hear that because it will have to make the West either increase their support or Ukraine is going to end up, having a disadvantage here, and we'll have to balance that out some other way. But we do have some more information here from the Kyiv Independent about a different topic of news, and it says from the ISW that Putin reveals concern over potential threats that the Wagner Group and Prigozhin may pose to him, and Russian dictator Vladimir Putin made several significant symbolic gestures during his July 23 meeting with Lukashenko, and of course that's from the ISW like I said. So Putin is still very concerned about what Prigozhin could do to him, along with the Wagner Group. We see Putin trying to exile Wagner to Belarus to get rid of that threat, and also Prigozhin as well. Apparently, though, Prigozhin is still getting around from some posts we're seeing. He is still going different places rather than just Belarus, so we'll have to wait and see exactly what that arrangement is. I thought he was exiled to Belarus, but apparently maybe he has some flexibility with that. Also, we saw the other day that Lukashenko was meeting with Putin to discuss something, and they also made some jokes about Wagner potentially going into Poland, which was a direct threat to their safety as well. So we'll have to wait and see on this one, but obviously nothing new. Putin has always been concerned with Wagner, especially after that coup attempt. So moving on to our next piece of news here, we have a post from Visegrad24, and it says Russia is playing a dangerous game, and last night they struck targets right next to the Romanian border for the first time. And this video was recorded by Romanians showing the attacks on the port of Reni right across the Danube River. And of course, Romania is a NATO state. And we do have that video here, which I'm going to go ahead and enlarge and play so we can take a look at it. And you can see a rather large explosion right over there, right across the river. Very concerning, and the Russians are getting very close to the border of a NATO country by doing that. And it seems recently like Russia is trying to tempt fate by attacking very close to NATO countries, also making very pointed threats at NATO countries. And we're waiting to see if Russia is going to end up making a mistake that causes a world war to break out, essentially. because, of course, there's always the risk that Article 5 could be invoked in the instance that Romania or another NATO country was attacked, which would be a very unfortunate circumstance indeed, but a necessity to protect the alliance. And moving on to our next news article here, this is actually our last one of the summary. It says Polish army convoy consisting of roughly 200 pieces of equipment, including KTO Rosomak 8x8 wheeled armored vehicles, was spotted recently heading towards the Polish-Belarusian border. And obviously Poland is taking this threat from Wagner very seriously, and we see here in this video that they are rolling down the highway here, heading toward the border to protect and shore up their border. And an interesting piece of news that we also got the other day was that Ukraine does not think that the Wagner are a threat to Ukraine's integrity. However, Poland appears to be taking a completely different approach and taking it very seriously and shoring up their border in a pretty bold fashion. So with that being said, that is our last piece of news for the day. I want to thank you all for watching, and I hope it's been informative. Please put a like on the video if you've enjoyed the content and found it informative, and also subscribe to the channel for more updates. Also, if you want, please go take a look at our Twitter page as well. Our handle is @It'sTheEnforcer, and you can follow us over there for the news as it happens. We post daily throughout the day as stuff happens and it occurs, so you can get the news over there. Also, if you want, go support us on our Patreon page as well, and you can support us putting out the news also over there. So I want to thank you all for watching once again, and also go check out Ground News if you want as well. That link is in the description below, as I said earlier, and you can go and get more news from there as well. It's a very helpful resource, and I think you'd find it extremely useful. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on our stream tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern, and bye-bye for now.